Hi, thank you for being with us this afternoon. I'm joined by Duty Inspector Albanese with Toronto Police Service. Shortly before 3:30 this afternoon, Toronto Fire Services responded to a report of a fire in the Toronto Community Housing high-rise residential building behind us. Upon arrival, the first arriving crews reported smoke showing and activated to a working fire response. Unfortunately, in the course of their search and rescue and suppression operations today, a number of residents were located and occupants located inside the building. Unfortunately, one of those occupants has been determined to be deceased. So on behalf of all of us at Toronto Fire Services and of course Toronto Police, we extend our most sincere condolences to the friends, the family, and all those impacted by this terrible loss of this tragic fire. Our crews successfully rescued an additional 4 people during the course of operations. Those 4 people have been, were of course immediately treated and have been transported to hospital by Toronto Paramedic Services. The most recent information that I have is that 2 of those 4 are listed in critical condition. The other 2 are listed in serious but not life-threatening conditions. So of course, we are awaiting updates from the hospital. The fire has now been extinguished. Our crews are continuing to work on the scene. Both Toronto Community Housing and our colleagues at the TTC have made provisions for emergency shelter provisions. And of course, we have notified, and our fire investigations team is en route, also notifying the Ontario Office of the Fire Marshal. So once the investigators get here and the on-scene operations have been concluded, the investigation into the origin, cause, and circumstances of this fire will of course commence. So again, I'll just extend my condolences to all those impacted by this tragic event, and happy to take any questions.
Chief, any idea of how the fire began?
We have no indication as to the origin, cause, or circumstances of the fire at this point. That, of course, is the purpose of the investigation. That investigation, the preliminary aspects of the investigation are underway right now. As always, collaborative effort between our fire investigators, the Ontario Office of the Fire Marshal, Toronto Police, and of course acting as agents of the coroner. So far too early for us to tell. We won't speculate on that. That investigation will continue in due course.
The person who perished today, were they a resident of the unit that was the focal point, I guess, or?
At this point, I don't know the particulars of with respect to occupancy status. I can confirm, of course, they were located inside the building. So the status of all of the occupants and the circumstances that led and contributed to this tragic fatal fire will, of course, form part of the investigation.
I just want to add that we do have some significant road closures in the area here. So if you are planning on coming down to this area, just be aware that Lawrence Avenue is closed from Kingston Road to Morningside Drive. So if you can avoid the area, that would be great. For those that are displaced from the building here today, it's going to be some time until we can sort through what's happened here. So we ask for patience and your understanding until we unravel what's happened here. With respect to victims, we also at Toronto Police express our condolences to victims and families, and we're here to support the Toronto Fire Service here in this investigation.
Chief, were there any other injuries? Any firefighters injured at all?
No indication of any injuries to our crews, which of course is great news. These are really challenging circumstances. So as always, our crews made very quick entry into the building, both for search and rescue and interior attack operations. They were able to very quickly control the fire and then had to deal with the migration and smoke issues. Fortunately, today we're able to do that without sustaining injuries to any of our personnel, so I'm thankful for that.
Chief, maybe you already said this or not. How many units are available now? Do you know that?
I don't, because we haven't been able to be inside the building or commence the investigation, I don't actually have confirmation as to how many units are affected. We know, of course, that the fire originated in one particular unit, and One of the things that the investigation will pay particular attention to is the spread of the fire and the smoke. So looking specifically at how that occurred and why it occurred. I should also tell you that we inspected this building from a fire code perspective very recently. In the middle of January, this building was inspected, and that's standard process for us. Toronto Fire Services inspects all high-rise residential buildings and all Toronto community housing buildings at least once a year. So this building had been inspected. That means that there were no significant issues and no issues with the fire code, which is good. But of course, all of that work will also be included in the investigation. Will happen into the origin, cause, and circumstance investigation of the fatal fire.
You have the buses on scene here to take people to shelter. Any idea how many people that will involve?
We don't actually have a count at this point with respect to the total number of displaced occupants. As always, I'm always appreciative of all that Toronto Community Housing does. They mobilize very quickly to put provisions in place to look after people that are displaced from the units, and they've done that again today, as well as our colleagues at TTC who are almost always with us and are able to be here very quickly and provide on-scene shelters. So as the investigation continues, we'll get better information with respect to how many people aren't able to reoccupy their suites.
Good.
What's the code for shelter?
On scene here, 2-alarm fire on Lawrence Avenue East in Scarborough. Just east of Kingston Road, high-rise fire. Multiple units on scene, 2-alarm fire. Toronto Police, EMS, and fire on scene.
Well, booking something, yes. That would be nice. I really wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, maybe I'm
freelance, yep.
I got some video of when it was going on. They brought
yeah?
out the guy who died later.
Oh, he died, eh?
Yeah,
That's too bad.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.